I'm Ashton Addison from Blockwest Capital for Investment Pitch Media and the Crypto Coin Show. And today on Blockchain Interviews, once again, we have Will Harborne, co-founder of DeversiFi. Will, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for taking the time today.
Absolutely, looking forward to it.
Let's dive straight into it. A lot has happened in the crypto world and with DeversiFi since DeversiFi came on the show in late 2021. Let's just start by getting the viewers back up to speed. And for those who didn't see the first interview on what is DeversiFi, what are the solutions that you're bringing with DeFi layer 2s into the blockchain world, and then we can dive into the more recent news.
Absolutely. So DeversiFi is a platform for DeFi. It helps anyone access DeFi, including trading, investing, earning yield on your assets, and transferring to others. But one of the most unique thing is that we're built on something called Ethereum layer 2, which means that you get all the security and benefits of using a public blockchain, but without the cost and without the friction. So similarly to some of the other newer blockchains out there, it means that it's really cheap and easy to use. We're focusing on trying to grow the number of people who can come and access and use decentralized finance to gain financial freedom, to start investing and accessing all of the opportunities that are coming in DeFi without having to have a huge amount of funds to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I've noticed that a lot of newer people coming into the space, especially with world events, people are starting to wake up to the fact that Bitcoin and Ethereum does exist, but there's also all these other chains as well. They have different consensus algorithms, different costs, different transaction finalities, and they're a lot cheaper than Ethereum. Most of them are, but there, as you said, there are like a lot of solutions that instead of using different blockchains, people can use Ethereum. They're just using more of a layer 2 solution to make it cheaper. Can you explain that a little bit more on how they actually are utilizing Ethereum, but making it cheaper and faster?
Yeah, absolutely. And Ethereum really is a global computer. That's the kind of way it was designed, in that anyone can come and use this computer, but you pay for the usage that you make. So if you make a transaction, you have to pay some gas. And the problem is that the capacity is pretty limited. So if you want to make transactions directly onto Ethereum, even sending tokens, making a trade on Uniswap, for example, you pay for that, and the cost is really high. And the more people who want to use it, the more expensive it gets. Layer 2 helps to basically remove a lot of those transactions from Ethereum, so that more people can use it for lower cost. And in the case of DeversiFi, we're doing that using something called Starks. We are partnered, we're actually the first partner of a company called Starkware, based in Israel, who have developed this technology and brought it to kind of market for roll-ups, helping more transactions basically get bundled together and then putting a smaller amount of data onto the main chain Ethereum. We actually were one of the first to do this in around June 2020. And since then, DeversiFi has been working on kind of taking it from like an early technology that was still kind of hard to use to really now something that's, we think really accessible. You can even directly get funds in from your bank account and then start using various aspects of DeFi all from your own wallet, with the full security of Ethereum and all the benefits that come with DeFi, including like all the openness, permissionless, and lots more opportunities than you might get on a kind of centralized platform. But really, like the cost isn't there, unlike what most people are used to using other DeFi apps, where you have to pay like sometimes $10 or $20 for transactions.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Thanks for the explanation, Will. And I know you're deep into the world of layer 2s. We talked a little bit about it last year, but I'd love to hear your perspective on the growth of layer 2 ecosystems throughout 2021 and your projection throughout 2022 here. Is this a fringe thing, or are there a lot of people that are actually using the layer 2 solutions on Ethereum and with DeversiFi?
So we can look at it in the kind of perspective of layer 2 and alternative layer 1s to Ethereum. And a year ago, or maybe if you look at the beginning of 2021, Ethereum was still dominant. Most DeFi activity was happening there. It still had the most users. And that changed pretty quickly throughout the year. Initially, it wasn't layer 2s that took a lot of that strain off of Ethereum, but it was alternative layer 1 blockchains, including Polygon, Binance Smart Chain, later on like things like Avalanche and Solana. And the number of users on those now is cumulatively much higher than on Ethereum. The transaction volumes and sort of size of DeFi activity in terms of monetary value is still higher on Ethereum, but in terms of where the users are going, it's now a lot of these other alternatives. And layer 2 is kind of part of that story. So like there was definitely a big take up during 2021. DeversiFi was one of the big beneficiaries of that, but so were other layer 2 rollups on Ethereum like DYDX, Arbitrum, Optimism. But so far, the kind of growth was still relatively limited. And that's because actually at the end of the day, these are more complex technologies than some of these alternative layer 1 solutions. So if you look at Polygon or Binance Smart Chain, actually really it's mainly that you've changed the consensus mechanism, but everything else is very similar to Ethereum. It's very easy for developers to adapt and start building. You don't necessarily get the full security of Ethereum, but it's good enough for a lot of use cases. And so we saw that just kind of be there at the right time in the right place and take a lot of the demand that was there from users. But I think this year we're going to really see a kind of growth of layer 2s, really in like all sorts of use cases, mainly because now it's catching up in terms of being able to offer, in some cases, better experiences than you can get from alternative layer 1s, but with also higher security. So it's kind of best of both worlds. And there's a lot of new layer 2s coming at the moment, like ZK Sync and Arbitrum and Optimism, all which are likely to launch tokens, which I think will really spur on a lot of adoption and kind of get the ball rolling. And the great thing is that all of these, including DeversiFi, are then very much connected and within the same ecosystem, which reduces kind of some of the risk we've seen of cross-chain from all sorts of bridges and other things where there've been issues in the past.
Great info. And yeah, you're right about the complexity. It's an small extra step over just using Ethereum, but of course there's all these advantages that you're talking about. And from what I understand, the complexity is getting less and less, and it's opening doors to more people. And the huge news that I saw from DeversiFi recently here, which I think is going to be a huge lowering of a barrier to entry for the complexity, is the Opera browser integration with layer 2 wallet. That I've used Opera browser for years and years, and I know millions of people that do use that. Can you talk about what is this integration? How is DeversiFi working in the browser, and how is that going to help people use DeversiFi and cryptocurrency easier?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we developed DeversiFi initially kind of as an underlying protocol to make decentralized finance cheap and easy to use. And then we built our own website on top of that people can come and start using, connecting their wallets to, whether those are MetaMask, Ledger, or various other wallet types. And essentially what's happened here is that we've helped and worked with Opera to connect directly to the protocol without using our own website as an alternative way of using it. Opera, as we know, is one of the leading web browsers in the world, and they've actually had a crypto wallet in it for a while that just supported initially Ethereum layer 1, and they've now kind of made a step forward, which is that they're going to really start to kind of grow and work on that wallet and really directly embedded into mobile, and so what this will mean is that anyone who has the browser will be able to connect to Web3 applications and will be able to make transfers, all at a super low cost with much lower sort of friction than they would have experienced before, which I think will make it really competitive in the crypto space. And as DeversiFi, we really want to encourage these sorts of applications. We're also going to be working in the future with other wallet types to help directly support layer 2. And that's going to really, I think, be a flipping point for Ethereum layer 2. And that at the moment, most people still had to onboard via Ethereum and then kind of move their funds onto an Ethereum layer 2 and choose between them. And in the future, it will be the other way around, where I think people will get a wallet and will directly already be using layer 2, never go via layer 1. And that's kind of the flip over that we'll see this year.
Interesting. And with the rise of the other blockchains that you mentioned, other layer ones. It seems that the narrative for 2022 and going forward is that this is going to be a multi-chain world, right? And no longer will there be isolated blockchains where it's tough to switch between Bitcoin to Ethereum to Solana in a decentralized way without having to go through some centralized parties that have your keys. All the blockchains hopefully can be able to talk to each other. And with Ethereum's ecosystem, there's those setbacks of the cost, and that's why we have layer twos. But that's not supposed to be forever. It's supposed to be solved eventually with Ethereum 2.0 and more upgrades to the blockchains as they keep reiterating to make it faster and cheaper for everyone in the world to use. Where do you see the layer twos and DeversiFi fitting in to this multi-chain world where we're looking at other blockchains and as perhaps the solutions on Ethereum come to fruition and they're able to use, everyone in the world is able to use that layer one as well? How does that fit into the multi-chain world?
I think it's pretty clear now that multi-chain is here to stay. A year ago, many people might have tested that. Where we are now is that there's so much activity happening on so many different blockchains. Each has kind of a unique culture that changes slightly the kind of applications that are built there, slightly different technology stacks. And so we want to adapt to that. In the case of DeversiFi, that's really kind of a big part of what we're going to be doing this year, in that we really see Ethereum layer one as being the hub, layer one and layer two as being kind of the hub of what we've built. But we want to make it much easier for our users to access DeFi. Our kind of mission is to make DeFi as accessible as possible. And that doesn't mean just Ethereum DeFi. That's going to necessarily mean all DeFi. One of the ways that we're going to be doing that is through trying to solve this issue of fragmentation that I think has really come from the multi-chain sort of way that DeFi is evolving, in that if you've ever tried kind of moving funds from one application to another, especially if they're on different chains, there's so many hoops you have to jump through. You might have to set up a new wallet. You probably need to get some gas in that wallet. You need to use some bridge that you might not have used before and wait a few minutes or maybe a few hours, depending on the bridge. And all of this is just such huge sort of like friction for users. And so what we want to do is present kind of a unified way to access all of that from one place. So for example, a few weeks ago, we've added a new opportunity on DeversiFi, which is to participate in Anchor UST staking. So UST is a stablecoin on the Luna blockchain, and you can now deposit into that directly from DeversiFi on layer 2 and start earning 19% yield via the kind of a bridge to Luna. And that's the direction that we want to go in. So rather than have to create this new wallet, do a 4-hour process, you could just do it from one click from within layer 2. And that's, we kind of tested this out with some of our team. Most of our team have worked in crypto for at least more than a year, and sort of gave them this challenge of, can you go and use this Luna Anchor UST staking, starting with your funds on Ethereum, in less than an hour? And like basically a very small number of them made it, and there were so many issues they encountered on the way. And that's really the issue that's going to need to be tackled with multi-chain, and very much what DeversiFi wants to solve.
Mm-hmm. Incredible. That's great to hear. The Luna ecosystem seems to be growing exponentially fast, and especially with a stablecoin yield of 19%. I know that's unmatched in the cryptocurrency industry. So to have DeversiFi linked directly to that, I think that's incredible. And I feel like there's a lot of people who have Ether and they're on layer 1 and they're starting to experiment with these other layer 1 chains, but they're just afraid of the complexity or the extra steps or even the security of their funds, of making a wrong move, moving to layer 2 and not being able to get their funds back or not knowing what to do. Are there any other issues or worries that, is this validated worries that people are having, or should they just go to DeversiFi and, there's no risk to just go onto the platform and start using it as a very new user?
I mean, there's definitely risks, and I think that's something which the whole industry is going to need to start to address. Most of the risks, I think, come from the interfaces between different chains, the bridges, and we've seen like the wormhole hack, and various others in the last sort of few months. But that's, I think, also another role that we sort of want to play here, is building and sort of tailoring to really strong cross-chain infrastructure to help make it possible to know that when you're using, for example, DeversiFi, you can get the safer opportunities. Nothing's going to be completely safe, and we are on the frontier. But then that's also why you can get today something like 19% yield, which obviously compared to the rest of the world outside of crypto and DeFi is pretty insane.
Definitely, yeah. Well, thank you for that, Will, and you're right. Good disclaimer there. There's risks in everything. Even doing nothing is a risk of opportunity costs as well. So for the viewers that are looking to learn more, get educated about layer 2s, start using DeversiFi, experiment with these other integrations and the Opera browser, as you mentioned, what is the best way for them to learn more and to get involved?
So we have a great blog with lots of educational content around layer 2 rollups and also the Opera release. And I would actually recommend, if you have Opera browser, trying it out. And it literally launched last week, so it's a great time to give feedback and be one of the first users of it.
Awesome. Thank you, Will. I will leave the links to the blog and the updates in the description box below. All the best with these new integrations. I'm excited to have more people moving into layer 2 and just into the cryptocurrency ecosystem overall, making it easier for the everyday person to get involved and become financially free. So thank you so much for your time coming on the show. All the best moving forward, and let's follow up in the near future.
Thank you very much.